Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Welcome back.
So, guys, we were just taking a walk with Zeke, and we came across this footprint. Now, we have had a coyote, show up just like 10 feet away from us. So, very well could be a coyote or something like that, or there's really no neighbors, so to speak, around where we are. So I don't think it's, anybody's dog on the property. But, there are foxes. There are definitely coyotes. There's wolves. There's bears. There's elk. There's sheep. There's antelope. There's a whole bunch of things around. So it just got me thinking, though, because looking at this, not that this is anything like a chupacabras, but it just got me thinking about, we never did a video on chupacabras.
I know, we need to do a video on chupacabra.
So we decided to. And this is curious because it could have been, it stepped here and stepped here. Maybe, I don't know. Oddly shaped. This looks very much like a typical dog's, pretty much, or, big canine. But then you have this one right over here. So, and the depth of it, it's really deep. Curious. Anyway. But chupacabras. Now, chupacabra is a Latin popular legend. A monstrous creature that attacks animals, consumes their blood. The name is derived from the Spanish word chupar, which is to suck, and cabra means goat. So it's the goat sucker. And there's a lot of different opinions on what it looks like, and we might be actually talking about more than one thing when you get down to it.
I think we are talking about a few different things.
Yeah, so some, look at it and describe it being kind of like this, canine-ish. And of course, where we have the legends of the chupacabra, we also have legends of skinwalkers.
Oh, we sure do.
And they are shapeshifters and, can change. So, is that what they're seeing? Is it one and the same, just a form of that the skinwalker takes?
It feels like they kind of share the same energy.
They have the same sort of vibe.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
So, again, sometimes described as being pretty much almost like werewolfish, canine-ish. Most definitely it's left a trail. Something has left a trail of dead livestock in many places all throughout Latin America, South America, Central America, and American Southwest as well.
Yeah, too many cases to just dismiss.
Yeah, and it gets me wondering because we have also, all these cases of like cattle mutilations and stuff, and I wonder if they're kind of connected or not, in some ways. It's interesting, too, because when you start studying Sasquatch and Bigfoot, often there's also lights in the sky, which make you wonder about that connection.
Yep, I do believe there is definitely a connection there, too. And this guy's creepy. Yikes.
Yeah, so here you have kind of a canine with spikes coming out of its back. And many people have reported seeing kind of like spikes or what you would take as really thick, heavy, kind of almost like quills coming out of its back. Very, very curious, the different descriptions. Others kind of make it sound more like a gargoyle.
Yes, I kind of feel that.
As we see one up in the tree. Sometimes even described with wings as well. And this one, because I've seen depictions like this before, this gets me thinking E.T. and almost like some sort of gray alien hybrid offshoot, some sort of monstrosity that maybe is being put together either in Area 51 or down in Dulce.
Yeah, it does.
Right? Seriously, when we look at where a lot of these legends are, well, in the American Southwest, it's areas that have a lot of underground military bases. And, of course, we have, all the legends of there being aliens under them and working with the military.
Yep, we sure do.
And you've actually done some scanning of that as well, some remote viewing.
Yes, we do have quite a lot underneath that earth.
Yeah, we could feel it when we were over by Area 51. A very strong draconian energy there. You could also, sense the grays and kind of tell when we're getting watched.
We really can. I mean, it's sad because the earth there feels kind of dead. There's no life to it, but you can tell that there's like sort of the gray alien life.
Yeah, and we've done a lot of hiking all along the edges of the military base, all around in there. We've found some pretty interesting caves. We've seen some interesting tracks. I think I shared with you guys, a barefoot humanoid footprint that we found in Nevada in the desert. I mean, who's walking around in 110-degree weather with, all sorts of scorpions and tarantulas and stuff and bare feet? And it happened to be right by a mining cave entrance.
Yes, that was creepy.
I should dig up some of the photographs I took.
That would be fun.
Yeah, because there's a lot I haven't shared with you guys yet, really, honestly. And then we're snapping so many photographs, sometimes we forget to share them. So when I look at this, yeah, that gives me the feeling like it could be more of a gray alien hybrid. And this one certainly would too. This almost looks like a little bat with wings, but has a gray alien's head on it.
He looks like a menacing fella.
So, the legends of gargoyles, for instance, there's got to be something to that.
Oh, definitely. Yep.
As we see here, another image. Now, when you look at that reminds me more of what we see with these cattle mutilations. I think this is a horse, but the whole cavity is just cut out. Now, that almost speaks of lasers and technology.
I think so, yeah.
But I wouldn't really want to see one of these guys coming running at you in the middle of the night.
No way.
No. And where we are and where we've been, you've seen and sensed things like this.
There was that one time, out in the desert, and you had gotten up to go into the camper, and the dogs had to have gone with you. And I looked to my right, and there was like this thing lumbering along I was inside of like a corral, and it was lumbering. And then when it got to the corner of the corral, it just stood up and it stared at me. And I started, because I could see with all three eyes, my two eyes, and then sense because it was staring at me, and it just fear flooded my whole body. So I feel it was also feeding on me, but it wouldn't go anywhere. It just stared at me. And that was probably the most horrifying experience I've ever had.
And you screamed.
Oh, I screamed and screamed and screamed.
Yeah, and I came out of the camper and I didn't see it, but we've sensed things like that before. And then we saw weird footprints. The footprints we saw were like, they would have hit me to be maybe something you would see with a dinosaur, honestly. Kind of like three large ostrich or dinosaur-like toes that were in almost like a 90-degree angle, with one going right in the middle of the 90-degree angle.
One thing it couldn't do, it couldn't really walk completely upright. It had to lumber. It was weird. It
was like hunched over, so you couldn't tell, but you said it was pretty massive.
It was. His shoulders were really wide, because I could see the muscle in the shadows. And then it did, when it got to the end of the thing, it did stand up, and it was taller, but not like completely tall. It still had this hunchback on it.
So how tall do you think it was when it stood up to its highest?
Maybe 6 feet.
Wow. Okay, so pretty good size. Mm-hmm. Curious. Very, very curious. And this is the Texas Observer. Texas chupacabras have a way of leaving bodies, or perhaps bodies in Texas have a way of becoming chupacabras.
Wow.
Now, I think what's happened is a lot of times people have said things like a mangy coyote and, saw that and then think that's a chupacabra. As, this is actually stuffed. And so this is a rancher that had this stuff. Now, experts say it's a coyote. I don't think that's a chupacabra. It's canine. It's normal. It's probably just a mangy coyote.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's interesting. Chupacabras have been blamed for so many deaths of livestock that perhaps, some of them are coyotes and things of the like. And then there's the ones that seem a little bit unusual as well.
Yes.
So in Puerto Rico, there was there was like a series of animal attacks that made this come to everybody's attention. And so again, what was it? That's the big question. Is it something paranormal? Now, when we were just talking before making this video, you got from the guides something that's interesting as to what these are, because I said, I wonder if there's an alien connection. And then what did the guides tell you?
The guides told me there is, but not in the way we might think. At one point, they did come from externally onto Earth, but now they're indigenous.
How long do you think they've been indigenous?
Hundreds of years.
Interesting. So there was recently, what were we watching? We were watching the Missing 411 the other night, and that was really good. And it was talking about some cases, there were some cases between Santa Fe and Taos all of a sudden where I think there was 3 or 4 people went missing, and they did find a couple of bodies later, way, way, way later, and miles away from where they were. And, not saying that it was chupacabras or skinwalkers, but, again, the whole UFO thing and alien abduction. And don't forget that supposedly, our government made deals with aliens that they could take so many people in exchange for technology.
Yeah, and the amount of strangeness that was discovered around these disappearances, and almost all of them, after the disappearance, there was a storm front moved in.
So, looking at this, most cryptids, and cryptozoology is a favorite thing of mine, and Cindy's too, and we really haven't done enough videos on it. Mystery animals of folklore do not leave much in the way of physical evidence, surfacing instead on blurred photographs or ambiguous tracks, but Texas chupacabras have a way of leaving behind bodies. Or perhaps bodies in Texas have a way of becoming chupacabras. In 2004, 2007, and 2009, several chupacabra carcasses popped up in the central part of the state, many with warty skin and protruding teeth. All of them, including this one person's, have been subjected to DNA testing, and the results have been the same: mangy, sickly coyotes or dogs. So, is that all this is, or is there something more? Where's the physical? And everybody always says it too. Where's the physical evidence besides the dead animals?
Well, yeah, I agree. But out in the wild, if a bear is to die, it's pretty rare you even find a bear carcass.
Well, yeah, that's a great point too, because, out in the wild, nature takes care of things quickly.
It does, yep.
And so this was a description, which again, when I see this, I start thinking alien. It has that feel, although it's also got kind of a reptilian vibe to it too. But that's the toes, actually.
Yeah.
Now that I look at it, that's what I was trying to describe. That's exactly the marks that we saw. That was in Nevada, very close to Area 51. Exactly that. Oh, that's cool.
That's quite a discovery.
Yeah, and I did get some photos of that before, and I will see if I could still find them. I'll have to go up into the cloud to search. But when I see something like this, yeah, I start thinking alien hybrids.
Me too.
Okay, so back to my other original thought. There was a case that they were investigating that they called the Predator case. You remember that? Because, and that was in Ohio, actually. I'm trying to think where. I think around Cincinnati. And what the lady spotted, this lady was actually hunting, and she was up in a hunting stand way up in the tree. And she caught movement in the trees, across from her. And she could see something kind of shimmering and moving, and she could kind of see she said it was like cellophane. And she could see it reach out and grab a branch way far away. So this thing was really big. And then swing to the other branch. And very curious, who knows if there's, if the earth is an ET hunting ground or playground in some ways.
Right. And she said she was shocked with her own actual non-reaction because she was quite calm.
Yeah, most definitely. So this is what they saw in Puerto Rico in 1995, where there was that kind of a wave of sightings and a lot of dead animals popping up. And man, that is exactly what I was trying to describe. That's exactly what the footprint looked like in the sand right next to the camper.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah.
So very cool. I mean, we've sensed something. We've sensed something like a chupacabra, and we've also sensed something like a skinwalker in the area where we currently have been camping.
Yeah, yep. It's kind of creepy.
Yeah, you could tell because, Zeke will want to go out in the middle of the night, and do his business. But then if it's out there, I'll open the door and he'll look at me and say, no, he won't go out. He won't go out when that thing is out there, and Cindy will sense it. So here's a video of what probably is a mangy coyote or something along those lines. This is out of Houston, Texas. As you see, possible chupacabra caught on camera in Houston. If it were really real. Yeah. When I was in Puerto Rico, I saw packs of mangy dogs that were always just scavenging for whatever they could find. So again, just because we get some evidence that people are thinking is chupacabras and it turns out to be coyotes, doesn't mean that there is no chupacabra.
Exactly.
Just not that particular case. And so, interesting. And what is the truth about the chupacabras?
Well, I just know I saw what I saw that night, and the energy it gave me was horrific.
Predatorial?
Oh, very, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you fear it was going to come at you?
No, it was weird. It's the way it just stood up and just stared at me. It's almost like it knew it was making me afraid so it could feed off the fear.
Okay, so that sounds more like it's, typically like what we were talking about with the Draco and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's one of these beings that, does feed off of fear. Although perhaps it does also feed off of goats.
Yeah, I think he can feed off of whatever he wants.
So interesting stuff. Really, really interesting stuff. There's been thousands of sightings of this. And if you are in the American Southwest, maybe you will run into one of these little guys.
Just be safe.
Yeah. As always, guys, thank you for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.